In case you can't tell by the Wyrmspan review is now. After the break, a brief tutorial, and then my thoughts, as well as comparing it to Wingspan. Let's walk through a really quick how to play Wyrmspan. This is not going to cover every rule or even be set up for the game. I'm just going to walk through the actions and basically how it plays. How you would set up, though, is you're going to deal each person 3 cave cards, 3 dragon cards. They're going to keep a total of 4 between those 6, and then they're going to take resources. All right? Now, what you're going to do is you are going to be choosing actions that are along the side of your board, and they will pertain to this board, and then this will allow you to do other things. So first thing you can do is excavate. So you're going to put the coin here. It's 1 plus the cost printed on the column. This is going to be putting out cave cards. You start out with 3 caves already excavated, 1 in each one. You're going to need to have a cave card in your hand. When you do excavate, you're going to look at the top of the column. Nothing, 1 egg, 2 egg. You're then going to take the card. You're going to put it on your choice of cavern. So the Crimson Cavern, the Golden Grotto, or the Amethyst Abyss. You're going to play it, and then you're going to get the stuff at the bottom. In this instance, a meat and a milk. That is excavate. Simple. Entice. This is when you're going to be grabbing dragons to your board. Dragons can only go onto a cave that's excavated, so initially you can only go in these 3 spots. However, if you get this out, you can now put a dragon on that spot. On the dragon cards, on the edge, they show you which cave they can go in. This miniature Rex can only go into the Amethyst Abyss. The Quartzy Rockbreaker, the Golden Grotto, the Ophidian Recluse can go in any 3, as you can see here. So when you entice, you're going to put a coin there, then you're going to pay the cost printed on the dragon. So this needs an egg and a milk, this needs a gold and a crystal, a meat, 2 gold, and a crystal. Then you're going to play it in the leftmost spot of your cave that you're able to. They have various different powers, which we'll get into here in a moment. The one I do want to cover is the flag is end of game, and some of them do have this same symbol, which is when played. However, when they have this little explorer guy, that is what we're about to get into. So that is the next action is you can explore. So the cost per on the cave. So the first time you explore any of the caves, it's a coin. Then it becomes a coin and an egg, a coin and 2 eggs, and then you can't explore it a 4th time. When you explore a cave, you're going to take your little explorer, adventurer, meeple dragon guy. You're going to go to the first spot. In this instance, it'd be gaining a dragon card. Then you're going to go onto the card. If they have one of those symbols, you're going to do that card. So this one is gain a cave card. Then you go to this spot. It's got this little shield symbol with a dragon head. That's the Dragon Guild board. What's going to happen with that is that's going to move me 1. I move 1 here. I get an egg. So you're going to be moving around here, getting these benefits. When you get to this spot, you're going to take one of your cubes and put it on any of these spots. This guild board can change. There's 4 of them in the game. And then depending on player count is what side you use. So you're going to look and see which one you want, and you put your cube there, and now no one else can put a cube there. When you get back around here, you can do the same, and you can do this up to a total of 4 times. So everyone's going to go back and forth, taking turns until either they need to pass because they're out of coins, or they choose to pass. Once everyone has passed, you are then going to the round tracker board. You're going to activate any end of round abilities. They'll have the little stopwatch looking thing on them. You're then going to score. You're going to look at what it is. In this instance, playful dragons on your player mat. So I have 1. If no one else had any, I would get the top spot because I'm first place. If you have none, you go to the bottom with all others. You then reset the caves. You reset the dragons. Everyone gets 6 coins and an egg. So if you had 2 coins left over, you're actually going to start the round with 8 coins. You then move into round 2. You play over 4 rounds, activate, score, add up points on dragons, variety of other points that you might get from other things. High score wins. Let's get on to my thoughts. Alright, so that is a brief how to play of Wyrmspan. Obviously, there's more involved, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview. So we're going to do this review in two parts. First, I am going to talk about what I find is different between Wyrmspan and Wingspan, and then I'm going to cover my thoughts on just Wyrmspan alone. Of course, it is going to be hard to separate that from Wingspan, but I'm going to do my best. Alright, so Wingspan is one of my top 13 favorite games. I think it's number like 4, 5. I don't know, we're going to be redoing those here soon, but it is definitely up there on my list. I like the engine building, the walking it back, trying to get the birds out, and finding the synergies. That is present here in Wyrmspan. I will say Wyrmspan is more complex than Wingspan because you're having to excavate the caves and then get your dragons in there, so it adds that extra step, and also the fact that you can get more coins to do more actions. Speaking of that, so Wyrmspan, you go 8, 7, 6, 5, so that is 26 actions in the game. Doesn't change, static. That is one of our complaints about it, is that as you get your engine going and as you're trying to do more stuff to get out and finalize the birds, your actions dwindle. That's what keeps that from being a perfect game for us, that dwindling action. In Wyrmspan, if you get no extra coins, you are only going to take 24 actions. So there's actually 2 actions less. However, a lot of the cards in here do allow you to do other things for free or bonus actions. You can get more coins, so you could take more turns. So that is definitely one way that it differs from Wingspan, is Wingspan dwindles down and becomes super tense and tight at the end. Wyrmspan actually ramps up, and that last turn can just be epic because you're just getting possibly getting so many more coins. I don't think I've had a final round where I've taken less than 10 turns. I've taken like anywhere from 10 to 12 turns in the final one of that, so that's over 2 times as much as Wingspan. I will say, as I said, Wingspan is more streamlined. The reducing number of turns, you don't have to worry about getting those cave cars and doing this and doing that. So if you want that streamlined base, get in, get out, very tight, well designed, go with that one. If you want the one that's got more design space, more looking for synergies, because now you're going to get this cave that gives you this, go with Wyrmspan. The one issue I do have with Wyrmspan as opposed to Wingspan is Wyrmspan for the end of round goals is only competitive, and we didn't like playing that way. We like getting where you get points for however many of you have. The non-competitive side, and this one doesn't have that option. And with this always playing 2 players, it's kind of because if you see like, oh, that person doesn't have any, well, here, I'll just put out 1 and then get max points. So we prefer playing the other way, so that is our other issue with Wyrmspan as opposed to Wingspan. Overall, I do believe we're going to keep both and bring them out at different times. We did play Wyrmspan, next day Wingspan to kind of gauge it, and yeah, we realized we liked them both, again, for kind of different experiences, even though they share that same DNA, which is one of the things that we like, is that shared DNA, and the fact that they did bring in Elizabeth Hargrave to help develop this, so it did share enough of Wingspan that if you know that, Wyrmspan, you can pick up like that. There's just a few differences, explain those, and you're off and running. So that was my comparison of Wyrmspan and Wingspan. Let's get into what I think of Wyrmspan itself now. Alright, so again, I'm going to give you my 2 cents. We are going to go over components, the experience at 2 players, my negatives, the theme, and the smoothness. So we are going to start off with components. For the components, so we did buy the deluxe upgraded component bits. They're wood bits, metal coins. It did come with the regular ones, so I was able to see those, and they are your typical cardboard circles like Wingspan, except the cool thing is that for the coins in the non-upgraded bits, they are actually metal coated, metal printed, so they do look nice and shiny and cool, which I thought was a nice touch. They could have just put the design and been done with it, but no, they added that little shiny coating. But other than that, they seemed pretty good. The eggs in here are great. The cards feel nice. All the boards are functional. I would say they did warp a little bit for us, but I mean, that's to be expected in board games, especially here in a dry winter climate. But outside of that, the boards function well. All the cards have good size printing. They're not small. You can easily tell what they are. They have a color coding system. They have little banners with what types of dragons, playful, aggressive, that sort of things. I will say that even though the cards do have are colorful and all of that, this isn't a brightly colored game. There's a lot of earth tones and darker muted tones with the caves. So that is one thing that might have been cool, if they could have added a little bit of pop of color, but it does kind of fit the theme a little bit in that it is kind of that cave, so you're going to get kind of dirty and yucky and mucky. But the art, though, even though it isn't bright and popful and colorful, is absolutely stunning and gorgeous. The bride absolutely loves it, as do I. Here's just some examples of it. That is the other thing I will say is not that it was necessary, but this Wyrmspan Dragon Facts is pretty cool. Just adds a little flavor, a little pizzazz to the setting, and it does show every dragon, what the size is, where you can put it, the cost, the nest, the trait. So helpful, shy. So that's a good way just to kind of look, oh, what all dragons are in here. And you can just flip through. So while not necessary, I really did appreciate that. So yeah, that was the components. Experience at 2 players. Plays quick, plays smooth. The main difference in a 2-player game from other player counts is you have these guild boards that you saw. You'll be going around, and depending on player counts, that board flips back and forth. So that would be the only difference really at 2 players. Outside of that, no difference. We do wish there was a way to reset the market, because if you only have 2 players and all 3 dragons out there no one wants, then you're just constantly top decking. There's no way to reset either of the markets that I remember seeing. I kind of looked through again just to make sure, and I didn't remember seeing one. So that market can get stagnant in a 2-player game when you're not getting all those other people to help sift through the cards. So let's move on to my negatives. So this one seems tight with the resources at the beginning. Going back to Wingspan, when Wingspan first came out, they had the regular board, and it was pretty good. But that one was tight at the beginning too, trying to get the resources, because you're only getting the 1 die, getting the 1 die, getting the 1 die until you get a couple of cards out. They came out with the Oceania boards with the Nectar, and now once you play 1 card, now you're getting the 2 dice for food, so it ramps up quicker and allows you to get to stuff a lot quicker. And that is, with this one, it's back to that real tight one. Also, you need eggs to put out the cave cards. Well, if you're exploring the caves, you don't get an egg until I think you played out like 3 or 4 cards. Granted, at the beginning of each round, they give you 1 egg. Okay, that's just 1. If you're playing hatchlings, you need eggs for them. If you're playing this, you might need an egg for that. Or you can use eggs to do stuff. So the fact that how many eggs are being used and it's harder to get eggs makes that, like I said, just too tight for us, where we're constantly just feeling like we can't do stuff because we can't get the resource, and we're doing tons of wasted turns in a game where turns can be limited. Yes, I said you can earn more coins to get more turns, but you are also spending those coins to get or to put out dragons or to do something. That's my other negative, is the fact that that they have those coins as a cost to put out a dragon as well. Because you're spending a coin to entice the dragon. Well, now you're spending a coin to put out that dragon. So in essence, you're using 2 turns to put out 1 dragon. I'm not a fan of that. If those coins are your turns, don't make them a currency in the game as well, because then it's really that cost management. Like, well, do I really want to spend a turn's worth of resources to put out this dragon that might only help me this 1 time, and it isn't even all that great? So that is one of the other negatives. And the other one that ties in with how tight everything is almost everything that you have to cache, especially with hatchlings, has to come from your own supply. So if you're already struggling to get resources into your supply, and now you're having to cache them on a hatchling to possibly do something, it becomes very, very aggravating to try and get the stuff over here to put here to maybe get something that might work with the stuff in your hand. And if you can't get the cards, to help your top cave and you're not getting enough food, and it's just really trying to manage that. And then as with any game with a big deck of cards, the other negative is sometimes you just don't get a good draw. You aren't getting what you wanted. There was one game where we started off with almost all hatchlings. Our hands were like 80% hatchlings. The market was all hatchlings for the first round, and then you had some more in the second round. So sometimes you just get a bad draw from the huge deck of cards. But again, that's why I wish there was a way just to reset the market. Well, that is for my negatives. The theme. I know this will be hotly debated. Wings or dragon, or dragons or birds or dragons. To me, I say both. I mean, you want birds, that's why there's Wingspan. You want dragons, that's why there's Wyrmspan. I personally like dragons over birds, but it's not like I didn't play Wingspan because of birds. I mean, I'm more about mechanics than theme, and I like the mechanics in Wyrmspan. But, I mean, it feels nice. It feels like dragons fit. You are excavating the cave to make room to entice your dragons into your cave. And why are you doing this? Because you want to demonstrate how great you are at building these sanctuaries for the guilds. So as you're doing this, then the guild is becoming more impressed. You're moving further on the guild board. And as you're moving further on the guild board, you're getting rewards from them. Like, good job, you did this. Here you go. This will help you out, and kind of almost like their payment or their incentive of making you a better dragon tamer for your sanctuary. The other thing that's nice about it is that when you do hatchlings, you need to have eggs and milk. Well, that makes sense. If you're trying to entice a hatchling, you're probably going to have milk, or whatever they would consider milk, because it is just a baby dragon. So even some of the costs were very nice there because it was thematic. So yeah, overall theme we thought fit well. We enjoyed it. I enjoy dragon themes. Are they overdone? Possibly. But can you ever overdone something that's great? Nah. Alright, so we're going to wrap up with smoothness. This is where I do have a couple of drawbacks. To me, the coins, when you spend a coin and do an action, you put it on your board, just like you would a cube in Wingspan. But the cubes in Wingspan were small. These coins are big, so it just kind of seems to kind of overtake your board as you just have these mound of coins all over, especially, as I said, in those last round or two, when you're taking more and more, then you're just having all these coins all over your board, and it can just kind of get overwhelming and busy. But the game does flow well and quick. The caves can cause some convoluted turns with multiple steps. Like when you're putting out this cave card, alright, well, now that you did that, now you move 2 on the guild board and your opponents move 1. Alright, well, now you move 2, so now you gotta take your stuff, and they have to move 1 and they have to take their stuff. So it could possibly break up that flow. Also, in this one, as you saw, when you're moving your person over, you get something, you activate a card, you get something, you activate a card, you get something. I really do like that because it does open up when you're going across, where if you don't have cards that do something when activated, at least you're still getting something throughout it. But that can just kind of seem maybe a little fiddly, where you're like here, up, down, up, and then just remembering stopping when you hit that stop sign. But overall, I'd say we didn't really ever have any issues of trying to remember what does what, how does what go where. The only other thing that is weird is, so you are still tucking cards on here. Well, if you have a cave, you put your dragon, you're tucking a card, you have to decide, am I going before, above the cave? So then you're kind of counting at the end, you're picking it up, and then you have the cave wonkily there. But that is really just a minor gripe. So as you'll see down here below, I've given this a 4.5 golden rings. Still not a perfect game. I'm pretty sure it's probably what I would rate Wingspan. Haven't officially sat down and rate, but I'd say right there around the 4.5. Like I said, the tight economy kind of brings it down for me. The whole caching from your own supply, so it makes the economy even tighter and just doesn't seem enjoyable at some point when you're like, I just can't do this because I can't get this. Oh, well, I guess I can only get 1 food. And now I got to spend another coin and an egg to get 1 food. Well, wait, now I got to try and get eggs because now I ran out of eggs and I spent the 1 I got. So that is why it comes down to a 4.5 out of 5. Hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell for this channel and this video. Look for our podcast where podcasts are found, and I will see you on the next one.